What's happening, everybody? Kyle Postwit, aka Malcare here at Big Kitty Games. Think everything's working. Audio bar's moving. Should be good. Let's get back into what we were doing. Basically, yesterday we got, I finished up, let's see. So now we've got monsters. When you attack them, they're now attempting to miss. This is actually being calculated elsewhere. We'll bring that over here, maybe today. Potential to get resisted. This needs some work. Currently skill templates. They do request the type of weapon that should be used, but that's used like if you're doing a melee attack. It factors your melee weapon damage into the damage it's going to do. Don't actually have like spells saying that they are fire damage yet, so definitely some work to be done here. Let's go ahead and add a little note there. I mean, I've got that. Well, let's put the note. I know I need to do it, but doesn't hurt to have a little note somewhere. I zoomed back out because this is my preferred zoom setting. That's not bad though, you can see that. So let's see. Skills, abilities need to be specifying damage types for this to really work properly. Some of them are arcane, like I set up the basic attacks so that they will at least work with this. Don't have anything able to block yet. I did actually turn it on here, didn't I? Oh yeah, okay, so I set it to can block, which is just a bool that I added onto our entity stat holder we built yesterday. So the tank is, well, and it's not even specifically a tank. Basically, block is if you've got a shield, right? Doesn't necessarily mean just because you're a tank you can block. So I added that as a separate value. Just like with players, we check to see if they've got a shield or not. If you don't have a shield, you can't block. So currently nothing's going to be able to block, but anything can parry. And I had to mess around quite a bit with some of this damage mitigation, whatnot. I'm testing using a level 50 fighter adventure hybrid. So I've got my riposte maxed, I've got double attack maxed, and a lot of, dodge and parry. What's the matter, kitty? Squawking at the birds. And it's pretty brutal. It's a pretty brutal build, and a little overpowered. But it's kind of for another day. Like, I don't even have any enchants on that character, so it's like if I loaded a bunch of enchants onto them as well, it'd be pretty much unstoppable, even for things like 10 levels above me. So there's definitely some adjusting and things that we need to do. But I want to get into making some starter abilities. So basically, first step, I just want to have rock monsters able to be ranged DPS or a tank, and if they're a ranged DPS, they're able to throw rocks, basically, right? And we can worry about going further with that later on. So let's go ahead and open up our entity stat holder that we built yesterday, and I want to do something similar to this for our abilities. And I actually started doing this a long time ago. Entity AI combat. Yeah, this is all of this entity AI stuff here. is stuff that I added on, and it's currently blocked out. I don't think I really want to look into actually using any of this, though. I was just kind of refactoring the monster AI script and trying to get them. Yeah, I'm not gonna go with this stuff because I'd have to go back in and relearn it, and it's 2 years old or something anyway. It's not gonna be my best work. So basically we want something like that, though. Entity stat holder, let's do entity. I can probably use these. Let's see, let's take a look at these real quick. Strike, stun, ground slam, shield, icicle toss, rock toss. Yeah, I started to get some things going. Mob skill database. Not sure that's the way to go about things. We could have a central database, or we could have abilities be sort of like drag and drop. So we're going to have like a generic monster AI script, right? It's going to be on our rock elemental, for example, earth elemental. And then we're going to be able to make it, currently I've got them set to tank. I'm compiling real quick here. I'll show you. We've only got one archetype in here. Excuse me, tank. Go ahead and we're going to add a second in, and we're going to make ranged DPS as well. So now when they go to generate self, this gets called. I move this to a different method for testing purposes. We're going to call input archetype, and let's see, range DPS. Do we want to set up skills right here? Again, monster AI is going to be on all types of monsters. So maybe we should have some kind of an ability holder. I can zoom this up a little too. Let's say we've got an ability holder, and inside of that we've got, maybe it's a dictionary, right? Ability, let's just call it ability dictionary. And it's got an archetype, and within that it's got an ability, basically. Entity ability. So maybe when it goes to attack, it looks at the ability dictionary based on its current archetype, and it says, do I have any abilities I can use? And then if it finds an ability, it checks the cooldowns. It says it's not on cooldown, I'm going to do it. And then it uses the ability. It's certainly a viable way to go about that. During attack, checks dictionary. I get a random Russian comment once a day. I'm sure that's just spam, but whatever. wonder if I can clear chat in here. Yeah. I think just opening properties clears it. Anyway, I assume that's just spam. I don't know what that achieves posting 6 random letters, but whatever. So during attacks, we're going to check the dictionary. If an ability is found, we're going to check cooldowns, and if cooldown, if cooled down, fire. I'm thinking like, you know, if we've got our basic ranged attack, throw a rock kind of thing, maybe we've got a special ability that we don't want to always happen. I guess we'll get into that when we get there though. You know, like 1 out of 10 times they'll do something else kind of thing, right? So we'll have to probably set up like a priority or a random chance roll kind of thing going. But let's get into this first. So, ability dictionary. Do I want to set this up as an object and then feed it onto each of these monster prefabs individually? Or do I want to get like a database set up that they pull from? I'm honestly not against the idea of dragging them onto here. There's not a ton of them. You know, it sounds like it's more work, but it is easier to manage and actually go and directly look at it and say, okay, this guy has that. He's got tank, he's got ranged DPS. I think that will be the way to go. So let's go ahead and we've got basics, we've got stats. We'll leave the stats beneath that. So above stats, let's add entity abilities. And dictionaries are not serializable. Do we want to just make a holder class and say entity ability holder array? That would be fine. So, well, let's make an entity ability holder. This is not going to be a mono behavior. So we're not going to be using start or update. I like to clean my classes up the way that I like them. Sorry, my throat's always a little weird in the morning. Let's close these up. Let's move you over here. So, public entity ability holder. And we called our stat holder by its full name, so we'll go ahead and do that too. And actually this is going to be an array, isn't it? just leave it at 0 by default. And I kind of want to let that compile, but not a big deal. So now we've got our entity ability holder. We want to make sure that this guy is using system and is serializable so that we can see him in the inspector and work with him directly. And each one of these is first and foremost going to have a public monster AI archetype. And let's set it to null. So then we're going to have our ability. Now, how do we set up the ability is the question. Player abilities are excuse me. Player abilities are using a coroutine, which is a pretty good way to go about things. So you do want to pause for like a quarter of a second sometimes, do some things in specific orders. Should probably have just like a skill template that we can plug into here. And we could call that something like an entity skill template. Don't think that is a bad idea. And again, that'll let us work with it in the Unity editor directly. Basically, all I want is something that can spawn a projectile and feed damage values into the projectile. That's about it. So, doesn't really even need to be a scriptable object, does it? Could just be, it does work pretty nice though. Now let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to open up our player skill template just for reference. And then let's make a new script. We'll call it an entity skill template. Should we say ability template? Let's I don't know why. Just to get them a little different from player terminology. We're not going to be using start nor update. I always like my usings to be in alphabetical order because I'm weird like that. And we do want to add the create asset menu property here. This lets us right click in Unity and actually make new entity ability template. Let's say entities. We'll do entity ability template. So we can actually make them, and we're going to want to copy. We don't need most of this. Let's see what we do need. We do need engage. That's the main one. So basics, skill name. We don't need a description. No one's going to read that. We don't need categories, skill trees, skill types, sprites, tiers, positions, levels. Don't need any of that stuff for monsters. Skill details. Definitely do need engage though. And level. Definitely don't need this stuff. Might want to use this stuff. Don't need you. Let's go ahead now and look at attack. Player skill templates kind of get progressively complicated as they go down. Everything derives from skill template, which is the first one I had open there. Then they go down to skill usable, which adds costs, requirements, and effects. I don't need most of these, but I probably should have costs, because you don't want to have monsters with unlimited fireballs, right? They should have a mana value. We might even want to make that mana value visible at some point because of mana leeching, which is probably going to be a thing at some point, right? Cooldowns and mana costs. Do we need an array? No. We're not going to be upgrading 5 at a time. Players have 5 levels to every ability is why that's in there. Requirements, we don't need. Effects. Caster effect, caster sound effect. These are probably useful. I'll leave those in there. And then let's take a look at attack. The question is, do I want to differentiate entity ability templates between attacks and projectiles and buffs and spells? Pretty much 4 is probably going to be enough. If I do that, or do I want to cram them all into being capable with one all-encompassing skill template? Let's drag this stuff over and look at it, see what we've got. Custom actions, I probably don't need. Damage. Damage type. We don't need weapon damage type. We do definitely want a damage type, though. And this is something I actually need to add to player skills as well. Both hands, we don't need. Damage does not need to be a list. Attack alteration. I forget what that is. No, I don't need that. I just need a float for damage. Damage over time. We'll worry about that when we need to. Utilities. This too. I think we'll worry about that when we get there. Well, I can go ahead and just do some of these stats for now. Stat alterations is a collection of stat alterations. So we'll need one of those. Target debuff is a different thing. Something we cast on ourself or on the other. Stun chance, fear chance. Probably just going to be a stun if it's a stun and a fear if it's a fear. Let's not do chance duration. Let's do... I think these can just be public bools. Is stun, and that would be a target debuff duration. Or should it be a float? Could do a target debuff and a stun. Are we going to have any abilities like that? A debuff and a fear? I don't think so. We'll just add a couple of bools for that. Is stun, is fear. Targeting method. I don't think we need any of this. Mobs are always going to have a target when they're attacking. Don't have to worry about finding that. Target effects we do want. We'll leave that as is. I think I'll move this down actually. Just to put these two together. So we've got caster effects, target area. We don't need... And we do want this. This is for AoE spells, and we're going to have some like fire abilities, right? Things like that. Target area prefab, target AoE type. I forget how this gets used. Target AoE type. Alright, so this goes on to the, for example, flame glyph spell, and it's used for explosions or damage over time. Do we need that? We might. We'll leave it. Max targets we don't need. Target AoE range. That's all good. So that's everything from attack. Projectile, however, has a whole other set of stuff. So this is the big question here. Do we want to have all of this together? Because these are like AoE spells. This stuff is, well, in utilities we don't really need. It doesn't hurt to have that on this level, but we might want to differentiate between projectiles, melee attacks, etc. Use gravity, speed, duration, is explosion, explosion range, max targets to hit we don't need, number of projectiles, projectile spread. Probably not going to be using that. I don't think we're going to be doing multiple projectiles either. We can always add that later if we want to. Explosion range is explosion range. Yeah, fireballs do that, so we'll leave that as is. And then we've got, and this includes lightning bolts and stuff like that, not just arrows and whatnot. But we've also got like heals and buffs. We've pretty much already included that though with our utilities. Buff duration, buff stats. I think this is all that we need, even though this is quite a bit. So starting out, we're only going to be using some of this, but let's go ahead and go with this for now. So first thing first, we're going to want to recompile, and we're going to want to create one of these templates, and it's going to be, what do we want to call it? Rock toss. Didn't finish this, huh? Yeah, let's do a list of entity ability templates. And on our monster AI, we put these in here, right? So yeah, this is going to be one per archetype here, and then we're going to say what archetype that is, and then it's going to have a list. I suppose I can make that an array, but it doesn't matter. It matters a little bit. Array is better, honestly. So we don't actually need that. Recompile once more. And then we'll have that in here. So we're going to be creating the ability templates themselves as objects in the project, and then we're going to click and drag those onto monsters that are capable of using them. So we're going to want a folder for that. We've got prefab monster folder. I think that works. Let's make an entity abilities folder, and we can do Solace crafting entity ability template. So this is what we just set up. What do we want to call this? Rock toss, rock lob, stone huck. Let's call it stone toss. Cooldowns 3. These are not by level. It bothers me, but I'll change that later. Mana cost is 0. Damage type is bludgeoning, and well, yeah, I guess we don't have to scale this because that's all under the hood now, right? Bludgeoning damage, let's just say, I think default is 50, right? For pretty much everything. Melee damage should just be 50. And we'll want to be altering that sort of, as we pass through doing this. We're not going to do utilities, we're not going to do caster effects, not going to do target effects, not going to do target area. We do want to make a projectile though. Well, let's just do a circle for now. Or a cube. Let's do a cube. It's got a box collider. 1 meter is pretty big. How about 30 centimeters? It's still a pretty big rock. Let's do 20. 20 centimeters cubed. Let's actually make it not cubed, just so it's a little more easy to see it spin. I'm going to give it a, I'm going to give it a rigid body so it can use the physics system. We'll give it a mass of 30. It's going to use gravity, etc. And I think we can go ahead and just add our normal projectile. Why do I have 2? Projectile script. And then we're going to want to put this on the layer of mob spells. So it's not going to interact with other mobs, but it is going to interact, our box collider is going to interact with the player. So it's going to be trying to hit the player. What is this? This is some kind of example projectile. I don't think this is mine. Mirror examples tanks. I don't know what that is. I want the other one. I don't think I need a network identity either. Yeah. Anyway. So. Probably want to change this though, don't we? This is kind of making a variety of assumptions. On collision enter. Try to find the monster AI, etc., etc. Okay, so let's make a new one. Let's call it, I think I'll just put it in here for now. We'll call it entity projectile. And for starters, I'll just copy everything over. Make sure we rename the file properly. I'm not going to use that timer. I'm not sure what that is. Max targets don't need, explosion range, piercing, sneak shot, don't need that stuff. Attack holder do want. Affected monsters we don't need. Effects we do want. Special effect type will probably be used in the future. That's for network spawning. Spawn on collision. Destroy after spawn. I don't need those yet. Hi, kitty. What are you doing? I don't think I will. We can add them back in if we need to. If timer is greater than duration, destroy. That's fine. So that's private. Okay, public void setup. We need our attack holder, definitely. We need our speed, we need our duration, we need gravity, we need effects, explosion, etc. This stuff we do not need. We probably do want... Well, the attack holder has the skill name in it and all the damage stuff, so I think that's all that we need. We don't have to say who it came from necessarily. Rock, Earth Elemental did so and so much damage to you. You do want to know that, don't you? And the attack holder does not contain that. Mob name, it does. Okay, so we're fine with that. We want all of that. We're gonna... There's no reason to get that. Let's make it public. Or we can serialize field our rigid body. That is definitely going to be, whoops, on our... Is that overriding it? Component rigid body. Is that even usable though? Rigid body. What if I remove these and I try to just say rigid body? See, you're not actually going to let me use that, so what's the point of that? I don't know. Whatever. Rigid body, what do we want to call it then? That's the perfect name. That's what I want to call it. Rigid body. Whatever. That works. Just so it won't yell at us. So we don't need to get that. I guess we can do an if rigid body is equal to null. Go ahead and get it. Should have it though. We'll plug it in manually here with our serialized field. We're calling it RB, huh? I guess that works. There's nothing else that we call RB. If use gravity, tell it to use gravity, etc. Add force. Good. Yeah, we do add some upward force, otherwise they start falling straight down immediately. If it's like a projectile getting lobbed. Spells don't use gravity, they just go straight forward. That should all be fine. Now we've got our on collision enter. Almost want to make that a trigger. Atarimae desu. Utsune yo. My wife just woke up. She's afraid of being seen on camera in her pajamas. Don't need you. This is fair. This is just trying to double check that we are on the server. If we are not an explosion, I'm trying to think, do we want to just let this collide with anything? And I suppose we do. Anything that it collides with, it does what it wants to do. Hopefully it collides with the player, but it might hit a tree you know, or miss the player, whatever. So whatever it touches, this script's going to fire. And if we're on the server side and we're not an explosion, we are going to look at the collision. We're trying to get player combat. Get component and parent should be good. And that will also look at the object itself, I'm pretty sure. It's not actually going to tell us that though. Should, would have been nice. Pretty sure it does though. If player combat does not equal null, and I don't think we need to check if we're dead or not. I'm pretty sure it's going to do that for us. Let's open up player combat and double check. Melee attack players. Currently all we have, melee attack. It's not really the best naming convention there, but that's fine. And if we're dead, we're just going to return. So we don't need that check here. And we're not doing sneak shot checks. Player combat attack player. It's not actually melee, but whatever. Attack holder, monster AI attacker. Okay, so we do actually need a reference to the monster that is attacking us. What is that? Yes. Riposte, etc. So, force field, stinging force. Let's go ahead and write up a quick ranged attack player, because there's actually a lot of this that we're not going to use. That is a big method. Ranged attack player. We'll probably want magic. Is that going to need its own thing? I'm not sure. And in this case, I'm pretty sure we don't need that. So if we're dead, if we're in God mode, or if we're in creative, we're just going to return. Combat timer is going to go back up. We're going to look for invulnerability. We're going to attempt our miss, our dodge. Yeah, we're probably going to want to centralize all of this stuff so that there's not, you know, all the same stuff going on here. But I'll just put it here for now. We are going to be able to block it. We probably want to add, let's say, make a dot check to see if the player is facing the projectile. So if something shoots you in the back, you can't block it. It can still miss. Yeah. And again, we're not doing that. Attempt parry. No riposte logic. Parry is certainly plausible though. Might get missed, might get dodged. Otherwise the damage gets adjusted. Might get warded. Force field. Arigato. Maybe. Force field's just trying to return damage, so we don't need that. If it gets all the way through, we're going to apply armor reduction, assuming it's a ranged attack. Audio. Again, this all needs to just be centralized into a method that both of those methods can call upon, but we'll just leave it here for now. You parried, blocked, warded, parried, blocked, hit you. Yeah, that should be fine. So now we can pass ranged attack. The player. And all we need to pass is the attack holder, which should include the mob name when we pass this to our projectile. Where were we? If effects is not null, we're going to be doing stuff, but I'm not going to get into that just yet. That's going to be for debuffs, which we will definitely have, but right now we just want to make sure we get a rock working. If it's not an explosion, that was if it's not. So if it is an explosion, we're going to test. We want to do player mask here, explosion range for every collider. I might have to work on this later. Is this going to hit the mob finder? Because the player actually has a couple colliders on him. I think it will probably, I'm not sure it's on the player mask. I don't think it is, but it might. And we'll notice that immediately when we build one of these and try it. So, not a big deal. For each collider, excuse me. In this event, might as well just write this real quick because we are definitely going to want to use this. If player combat equals null, continue for each. Yeah, and again, I don't think that I need this, but I might. Ranged attack player with the holder. We will be doing that later, and we might need to be doing that later. Affected monsters is within this, huh? Did I delete that as part of the opening bit of this script? I think I did, didn't I? No? Where does that actually start? I might have deleted that up here. It's not a big deal. If we need it, we'll add it back. We're not going to be doing explosions just yet. If spawn on a collision, I don't think we're going to be doing any of that. Did we get rid of that? Spawn. We did, didn't we? Yeah, I don't think there's anything that's going to be doing that. So just get rid of that. Okay. So we've got our basic entity projectile script set up. We want to add that onto our rock that we're going to be tossing. This is what it looks like right now. So not player projectile. Let's add entity projectile. And we can reference the rigid body directly. We don't have a special effects type yet. And let's put this into... Whoa! I just spilled my drink a little. It's right underneath my mic. Couldn't see it. This is a Yakuruto. It's like a yogurt drink. but it's, you know, it's like a health drink. It's just this tiny little thing full of healthy bacteria. This is our stone toss stone. We'll move that into there so it's now a prefab. And now, on our template, we're going to have a projectile like this. It is going to use gravity. 3, 4 should be fine. So we're all set up to throw it. All we need to do now is throw it. Entity ability template. This is the logic we need. Let's copy it from player logic. This is big and complicated. We're not going to need most of this at all, but let's copy it and take a look. Entity ability template. What do we got here? Okay, this is all skill logic, so we don't need this stuff. We want to get the damage. We want to attempt critical. We want to set up the projectile. We're not doing either of those. What else we got going on here? Don't need to check you. We do want to check cooldown. Wonder how that's going to work. I don't think we're going to actually check that here. Don't need to check that. Don't need to check that. Animation, I think, will be separate as well. Spend costs, cooldowns, that's all going to be handled on the AI itself. If we've got caster effects, we want to play them, assuming this is a projectile, as it is. We're not going to be doing multiple projectiles, so I can get rid of that. We're just going to do one. We're going to instantiate it. We're only going to be doing this on the server, so we don't need that stuff. Don't need that if statement in its entirety. What are we passing into this, though? I guess we do want... Can we just pass in an origin, a vector 3 origin? Or should we... Let's go ahead and pass in the monster for now. So I'm going to do entity position. Well, I've already got ray origin, ray direction here. Did I get these backwards? No, that's the network camera. Ray origin, ray direction. Not actually being used. I guess that's for some other stuff. Anyway. What we really want is our target, isn't it? Entity.forward. That's going to be our ray out. Our direction. Why am I assigning this here when I'm just reassigning it here? This is weird stuff going on here. This should be the origin and the direction. The direction is not going to just be forward. It's going to be target dot position, let's say plus vector 3 up, which is just 1 meter directly, since the target, we're going to be looking at the player, but its actual target position is its feet. So we're actually going to move a meter up from that, so we're aiming at about the waist. And that's just a point in space. What we actually want is a direction. So we're going to do minus entity dot position plus vector 3 up. So we've got point that we're looking at, we've got point that where we are. When we subtract this from here, what we end up is with a line pointing, it's a vector pointing in that direction. And then I'm going to normalize that. I'm not sure the difference of these. Turns this vector with magnitude of 1. I think that works. So now we don't need our direction. I'm a little confused why that is there. I'm not even going to bother to see if I can hit it, really. Right? I just, the monster already sees me. He's just going to try and throw something at me. So I don't actually need these ray casts. I don't think. Get main hand position might be nice, but we don't actually have that just yet. Probably not going to ever happen either. Hit dot point minus us, yeah, so that's all correct. Go transform dot position equals let's see, entity dot position plus vector 3 dot up. And I probably want it even a little higher than that. It's going to be like coming out of the rocks. Yeah, let's just up this a little bit. Up times 1.5 maybe. We'll see how that works anyway. 1.2. It's a whole meter, yeah. Yeah, 1.5, that works. And then we're going to move it forward just a little bit so that it's not coming out of his side. It's kind of coming out 60 centimeters from his side, which is a little bit forward, but that's not bad. Look rotation. See, I don't need this ray. This is going to be our direction, actually. Let's just do this. Vector 3 direction equals this guy. And then our rotation is going to be like that. Doesn't actually matter, that's for arrows, but we will have arrows and stuff eventually. So now we're going to do entity projectile. Oh, I have an enemy projectile. I should look at that, but I don't want to. Entity projectile. And special effects manager, we will need that eventually, but not just right now. Effects, we're not going to worry about right now. And we don't have lists being used yet. So that makes that okay. Damage equals. We're only passing the level into this guy right now, huh? This is on the template itself. And we don't actually care about level, do we? What we really want is our attack holder. Aye. What's Kitty doing? Gotta get the cat cam back up and working, huh? Missing the spotlight? So let's say we've already got the attack holder being passed in, which means we've already attempted critical, etc. We're going to set up this guy with our attack holder, our speed, our duration, used gravity, our effects, explosion, explosion range. Alright, that should be good. So this is what's going to engage when we tell it to. And we're going to instantiate the projectile and lob it. I'm not actually, oh yeah, so then this is where we actually add the force to it so that it's throwing. So that's all good and well. Now we just need the monster to actually call that. So on our monster AI, we added this array, entity ability holder. For now, let's just go ahead and go down to attack. Is it attack? Attempt a raycast. If you can't find the player, it doesn't try to. Resets the aggro. Tries to get the player. Makes an attack holder. Attempts critical. Not properly, but we'll get to that. And then it goes straight to melee attack player at the moment. So let's just for now insert into here an attempt at throwing a rock. So let's see. We need to look at the dictionary. Entity ability holder. Is an array. Basically we want to do for each entity ability holder. We'll call it EAH in there. If EAH archetype is equal to our current archetype, I guess we don't have been picking one yet, do we? So we need to go to our generate self method, and we are telling it. How are we doing this? We're picking one at random. Okay, that's fair. We're not actually reporting that back though. So let's make one so that we know what we are. This doesn't need to be public. We're going to have an archetype called archetype. Let's call it current archetype. And by default, that's going to be generic. But during our generate self shenanigans, we're now going to pass a reference to that. Archetypes level reference archetype. Current archetype, there we go. And we're actually going to use that instead of this local variable. Monster AI dot archetype. This is our archetype. Now we can just do this. So it's actually going to set this back on the script that we're calling this from and make use of it here. So now we will know if we are a range ranged DPS or a tank on our rock monsters. And now if we go through here and we find an ability holder for our current archetype, then do we have a cooldown on here? Oh yeah, I wanted to change these. Cooldown by level, mana cost. That's all good and fine. Where am I resetting my attack timer? There it is. Might want to move this somewhere else. But that's fine for now. Attack speed. So we're actually going to be doing a skill now. So we're going to use that cooldown. But basically we want to grab EAH. So we've found range DPS. We want to grab a template. It's currently we're just grabbing one, you know, assuming there even exists an ability holder, that means there's an ability in there. We're going to want to probably do a null check here and there in this, but let's just get it working first. So EAH ability template holder, let's do engage. And in order to do that, we actually want to do start coroutine like this, and we need to pass a bunch of stuff into it. So we're going to add our transform. We're going to do client, I guess it's target, we've already got it. Target is the transform, right? And we've also got our holder. Let's go ahead and call this attack holder, because that's what he is. So this is going to fire that. Let's go ahead and set our attack timer to equal our cooldown on the ability template. And then, I'll leave this stuff going now. For now, I'm just going to say bool skill used equals false. In the event that we did find one and we used it, we're going to set skill used to equal true. And then if there was no skill used, we want to attack. And we'll want to improve this, but we want to just get it working first. So one problem we have right now is this is not going to get called unless we're in melee range. Right here. So if we've got a target and the distance is yada yada, then and only then will we attack. What we really want is if distance is less than melee range, or let's say our current archetype is equal to range DPS, and again I want to improve this too. What are these vor.ong? I don't understand what that's supposed to even be. But I can just remove it and reset it. bots, I assume. Anyway, if we are a ranged DPS and the distance is less than our ranged range, let's just go ahead and make one of these up for now. Something like 10 meters. So if a ranged DPS and our distance is less than ranged range, we can go ahead and stop, make sure we're looking at him, and we will attack. So again, we'll want to set this up better so that we've got ranged attacker AI going on versus melee attacker AI going on. But this should work for now. We'll set up the attack holder, and then we will try to find an acceptable ability. We'll plug this into our Earth Elemental so that he's got the Stone Toss ability, and it should trigger and fire. Only thing we'll need then is to make sure that we get one that spawns as a ranged DPSer. So, ability holder, let's add one. We'll set him to ranged DPS, and we will give him the Stone Toss ability. And we added our projectile there. Should be good. Let us give it a try. Might go horribly wrong, as these things do. I'm actually going to let's see. We got a whole bunch of rocks that these guys just threw at me. Okay, so we know that guy, anyway, we can kill these ones that are not stone huckers. Those guys are trying to hit me. I think they are hitting me. No, they're tossing stones. They're not getting very far. And why are they tossing so many of them? That's funny. They are tossing though, that's not bad. Why are they doing it so many times? Is the cooldown's at 0? That's no good. Okay. So we need to fix that. Also, the projectile speed does not seem at all enough. Or is it because they're so heavy? Let me look at the arrows real quick. Yeah, I just kind of guessed that in there because arrow or rocks should be heavy, but that isn't actually necessary. It's just going to explode as soon as it hits anything. That would be under resources, weapons. We've got an arrow, and his mass is only 1. Okay, so I think that is our main problem. So let's turn the cooldown down to 3, or up to 3. And let's set the stone to 1 kilo. And let's give that another try. Worked pretty good though. They were definitely throwing and mowing. It's a great game if you haven't played that. Couch party game. What's going on? I think it's just the inspector's mad at me for looking at something directly. It's just Unity editor problems, not actual script errors. It looked better. He's hucking them now. I don't think he's hitting me though. Are they going right through me? Well, that guy's... They're just throwing them back and forth. They're lobbing them pretty good though. When you're the player, you've got that, They're definitely throwing stuff though, so it's good. Oh, okay, and that did hit me. Okay, cool. Looked like it hit me twice there. Okay, that one hit me once. That one hit me once. They both hit me. Okay, cool, so they're hitting me. And they fall to the ground. All is well. We just need to adjust the angle that they're throwing stuff at a bit, huh? Entity projectile. So we're adding force upward. That might be our problem. Or we're also doing, look at how small we made this in the end. That's great. Direction. Yeah, that's going to be right at us. Our position is going to be... Our position just felt like it was a little high, wasn't it? Let's just try vector 3 up, entity forward, move it up a little bit, rotation, look rotation direction. So this is the real culprit here, isn't it? Let's turn this down to 25. Basically, instead of throwing it straight, we're adding a bit of an angle to it, but that's causing problems. It was up a little too high, and it was angled up a little too high, I think. So we'll turn both those down, try it again. And then all we need to do is turn, well, also I did want to offset it too, didn't I? Let's see, position, entity transform forward. I also want to do, let's do to the right by what, 30, 40, 50, maybe 50, maybe 40 centimeters. Because they were coming out of right in the middle of them, and we want them to be tossing them, right? And as long as we're doing this, let's go find ourselves an actual stone. Got a whole bunch of stones. We just want something that, well, this one's apparently not working. Or these are just the models, aren't they? Where's the prefabs? Glyph stone, no. Enchanted stone. Grindstone. These are iron nodes. There we go. Something like one of these, but certainly doesn't need to be complicated. I'm thinking probably not one of these beach guys. None of these two. These are one-sided. That's not going to work. Pillars. I might want to look for rock instead of stone. Let's look for rock instead. And these are pretty complicated too. I know there's definitely somewhere some really simple rocks, and they might actually not be in this project. Well, that looks pretty simple. No, these are one-sided. What is it called? Forge something or other. Forge 3D pack that I've got in a different project. Coral rocks, cave rock, small rock. These should work. Let me look at this. That actually looks pretty good. Let me look at your... Okay, that's not bad. We just don't want a ton of polygons because it's just going to be this tiny rock that they're throwing at us. But that works fine. So, cave, small rock, 2. Let's bring you out. Stop searching for rock. Close all that stuff up. I hate it when it opens up tons of folders. If you Alt-click on it, it will close them all at once. Let's open back up. Then we were working on prefab, monster, entity abilities. We've got our stone toss stone, which is basically this guy. Mesh and collider are currently separate. It's got some shader errors. Great. Let's just give it its own standard shader because we don't need all that fanciness. Standard shader. That's fine. Blah, blah, blah. You don't need emissions. You don't need reflections. Specular highlights. GPU instancing, yes please. From shader. Sure. Yada, yada, yada. Smoothness. Whatever. It's fine. I'm going to use U. Render is statically batched. Yeah, sure. Motion vectors, blah, blah, blah. Mesh storage. Don't really have any reason for this to be separate. Let's just give it a sphere collider. Keep things simple. take a look at it. Where is your sphere collider? Yeah, that looks fine. And we're gonna call you Voodoo's Hut. Hi, Kitten. Nice in. Stone toss stone. He's already got the glider. He needs to be on the mob spells layer. Get in. You're gonna sit in front of the keyboard, huh? And what are we missing? We need the entity projectile script. We need a rigid body. It's a mass of 1. We want to reference it. Give it to this guy. Replace it with this guy. Make sure he knows about him. And let's give it another whirl. What are you doing? Are you bored? And once again, I'm just going to spawn some dudes in. As soon as this loads up. It's a very nice day today. Sunshine. But they do be working. So that's fun. They sure bounce a lot. Maybe I can crank their mass up after they hit me. Definitely want to scale them down. And let's say on hit, rb.mass equals 60. And let's do rb.velocity, which is a vector 3, correct? Equals rb.velocity. Let's just normalize it. So that's just going to clamp it way down when it hits me, and then it's going to make it way heavier. We scaled them down as well. I have had some weird stuff in the past where when you instantiate something, it doesn't actually hold on to the scale properly, and I was pretty much always setting up the scale manually to make sure that it's always at 1, which would interfere with this method of setting things to 0.2, but either Unity got better or my code got better, I don't know. I haven't actually seen that problem in quite a while, for some reason. Again, it doesn't like me looking at those while it loads. It's fine. They're hucking them. They're kind of not hitting me all the time. I guess that wasn't too bad that they were extra big like that, was it? So that's his throw range. I could turn that up. He is hitting me, but it's kind of going off to my side. Why is that? Hi, kitty. You're just bored, aren't you? You're just bored, huh? I guess it's because yeah, I'm spawning it off to his side, aren't I? So I think that's all good and fine, except for this bit here. We want to actually move this to also be included into here. Target position minus entity position plus that. If we incorporate that into the direction math, he should know better where he's throwing it at. Basically, we want all of this to be in there, don't we? So forward doesn't really matter. We do have entity position plus up. There's no need for these brackets. And then this guy, just for the sake of cleanliness, let's move this to the other side here. Yeah, so that should fix him throwing it to my side a bit there. And they were pretty fast, and then when they hit me, they slow down and they fall to the ground. That's fine. And once they have hit me, they should be marked as having hit me, because I could run and step on it and then it would recollide and do more damage to me, and that would be silly. So let's make a bool expended, and let's say if not set up or expended, return. This starts out false, and then after we do that, let's say we hit a player, we are now expended equals true. Even if we didn't hit a player, we've lost our momentum. We hit a tree or something, we're no longer a deadly weapon, we're just a rolling rock. So now rock monsters are going to be 50% rock lobbers. I suppose one thing we could do is set up a chance for them to be one type or another. Let's say we've got on our monster AI archetype holder, what was it? Archetypes? It's just an array and it's just going to random between them, isn't it? I guess I might be overcomplicating things. I could do like tank, DPS, and then, you know, you'd get 2/3 tank, 1/3 DPS. And it wouldn't mess up any of the other logic. It would just, because it's just going to try to randomly pull, where is it? Right here. It's just going to pull one out at random from that array and consider that done. That would work. I was thinking about adding like a floating point value onto it so you could actually say, 80% tank, 20% DPS. That kind of would be nice. And again, it wouldn't be difficult. We just have to make a little holder class where we have an archetype and then a float connected to it. Should we do that? I think we should. We're probably only going to want like a couple of healers when we get to like goblins, or something like that. Have most of them be generic, but then some of them be ranged, some of them be tank, some be healer, right? I think that makes sense. So let's just make a little holder class for that. I don't really even need to make a new file for it. Some people freak out when you do things like this, but let's do just something real simple like this. Public class entity archetype holder, or do we call it chance? Entity archetype chance. I guess that works. And then it's just going to have, we want this guy to be serializable, which I don't have, apparently. System serializable. And then we're going to have a public monster AI dot archetype. And we'll set him to be generic by default. And then we're also going to have a public float, and this is chance, which the default is going to be 1. Now, instead of just having this, we're going to have a entity archetype chance array. Archetype, let's call it archetype chances. And it's a new entity archetype chance array. And by default, we do want to have one in there that's generic. So let's make a generic constructor for this guy. Public entity archetype chance. Well, no, we set him to be, he's, Dogigun. Meow. What's Kitty doing? You want to be on camera? Huh? What's the matter, you? Big kid. What's the matter? This is Pearl. He gets... What's a good word? He gets bored. Everybody's sleeping. You don't want to sleep with everybody else? He's also the food monger. If you can see the bottom of the bowl, he is in your face. Yeah, so these are going to, by default, construct as generic one. So I can just add a new one in here by default, and all of the hey, messing with my mic. What are you doing? You can see when it recompiles here, it's going to go through 君だよ。ダメだよ。I did an error here, didn't I? はいよ、気をつけて。We want to pass our archetype chances to this guy now, and I need to fix this stuff or it's not going to work. Monster AI, nope, he is now a public class of his own. Archetype chance, entity, archetype chance, array, archetypes, and we're going to go through there. What are we going to do though? I've run into this problem before with loot tables. But let's assume that we're smart enough to, when we go in and plug in these manually, we only give them enough numbers to be a total of 100%. So we're going to make a float random roll equals random.range. Looks like we have system being used here, so we want to do unity engine.random.range, and we're going to do 0 to 100f. And then using that, we're going to say, actually no, we did 0 to 1, didn't we? Yeah. And our archetype is going to be, let's see, we want to go through for each entity archetype chance EAC in archetypes. If EAC dot chance is less than or equal to the random that we rolled, then we want to go ahead and set our archetype to equal the EAC archetype that we just picked. Failing that, we're going to be passing in a generic already, so in case this doesn't work, it's just going to fall back on default, and even if it doesn't fall back on generic, we're doing default anyway, so it's fine. But yeah, it should pick up. Well, no, that doesn't work, because again, we're going to set 1 to be 70% chance, we're going to set 1 to be 30% chance, and both of those are actually going to trigger this. So this is kind of a pain in the butt. There's probably some smart way to do this that I just am not aware of. But I did this with loot tables. Somewhere. Get loot. 100% drops. Try for schematics. Schematics. We've got our chances. We've got our sum. Right. It needs to be additive. Basically, let's say we've got float. Let's say current chance equals 0, and we're going to go into each of these, and we're going to say if we do find it, we're good, and we can actually break out of that, right? Failing that, let's say we've set it to be what? So we've got a 30% chance and we've got a 70% chance, and we rolled a 50. The first one we looked at was the 30, so that's not enough, so it's going to break out of that, or it's not going to trigger the break. And on the next line, we're going to say that our current chance plus equals the EAC chance that we just failed. Is that, what does that do though? Actually, I forget. How does that? Now we're going to know that we've already looked at 30%. So when we look at the next one and it says 20% chance, say we've got a 30, a 20, and then a 50. We roll a 40, the 30 fails. We're going to say now we've got a current chance of 30 that we've already looked at. The random's still at 40. The next one we're going to look at is a 20, but now we're going to do this plus current chance. So we're going to be 20 plus 30, that's 50, is less than or equal to, oh and yeah, we actually want to do if random is less than or equal to. So we rolled a 40, now our total chances that we've gone through is 50, right? So if there's only one, it's going to be 1 from the get-go, and it will always pass. If it's 70 and we roll an 80, it's going to store that here, and then the next one is going to be 30 plus 70, so it's going to be 100% chance. Okay, so that works. Theoretically. And we set that all up properly, right? Now we just need to actually go in. By default, they've all got a generic 100%. We want to make sure that our earth elementals, let's say we do like a 10% generic. So it's going through and assigning generic to all of them. Earth elementals. We want you to have three. We'll do, let's say, a 10% chance to be generic, a 80, let's do 70% chance to be tank, and a 20% chance to be range DPS, right? And again, even if we don't do these properly and it falls through, it's still just going to default back onto generic, so we're safe there. It's not going to like freak out and not know what to do with it. But now as we run around, we should find that 20% of the earth elementals are ranged attackers, and they're going to be throwing rocks at us. I think I'm going to turn up the range, and I should probably do that here, because there's going to be different abilities with different ranges. Currently it's on the monster AI script. I just tacked it on here quickly, like this guy. So let's say we don't have this, but we do have projectile range. Let's say public float range equals 10. I actually wanted to turn those up a little bit, 12, whatever. So it needs to access that somehow. If our current archetype is equal to archetype.range DPS and distance. Yeah, that's not quite how we want to do that, is it? I guess that's going to be for specific abilities, huh? Again, yeah, maybe we should get into working on improving this a little bit. I am going to leave this as is, actually, huh? Ability template range. Well, we'll do that if we need to, I guess. Might not be necessary. Would be nice to have some monsters with greater range than others, though, right? I just kind of don't like this whole everything being crammed into attack right here. It's not that big, but we don't really want to be making, or not attack, what was it? It was the sense AI stuff, wasn't it? Yeah. This is just all an update. If we have a target, we want to look at the distance. If we're a ranged DPS and we're within ranged range, then we want to go ahead and try a ranged attack. I guess that's not so bad. Can leave it as is until we need to do better. In the meantime, what do we want to do? I kind of want to give imps fireballs, like really bad. But we could also do some fun stuff like giving rock tanks the ability to stun. Or what's happening, Vizaresh? We could have some monsters doing debuffs. I'm probably going to want to make a spreadsheet of the monsters and their abilities, right? I guess we don't want to go too far down this road just yet, but it would be a lot of fun to get some, like the ghosts. Give the well, what are some of the bosses? Yeah, we've got Goblin Boss. We should definitely give those guys abilities first, huh? Goblin Boss. We got the Vampire. We got the, what else do we got? Am I missing one? What am I missing? This is Undead Dungeon. Goblin Boss is Goblin Dungeon. What am I missing? Too much stuff to keep track of. Was it this one? Alright, caves. Who's in the... What is that, separate window? Cave, what is he? Obsidian Golem, I think? Or is it Crystal Golem that we're using right now? I forget. Why did that open twice? This was the second window. Jeez. Don't split. Here we go. Obsidian Golem, right? No, this is old. Here we go. Earth Golem. Oh yeah. I called him... Is he called an Earth Golem? He is called an Earth Golem, this guy. Yeah, he's the boss of the caves. So we could give these guys like stomps and screams and Earth Golem, let's write that down. So this is all working. I definitely want to do like imp fireballs. That's just kind of obvious, you know. We definitely want to do... We should do, you know, like bear roars and harpy screeches and... yeah, let's do a real basic damage over time. How about maybe a wolf attack? Let's do a wolf. Scratch doesn't sound very lethal. Wolf. Rake, maybe. And we could do like a bear. So that's a good DOT. A dot. Damage over time. Let's do a bear roar. That's going to be a debuff. I'm not sure what kind of debuff just yet. Definitely want to do imp fireballs, but then let's also make sure that we do, let's get some boss abilities. Well, they're not bosses, they're heroes. We want to do vampire, we want to do earth golem, and we want to do goblin boss. Should probably give him a better name. We could call him a hobgoblin. Hobgoblins are usually goblin bossy guys. I don't know what to give them just yet, necessarily, but let's do some of these real quick. That's a projectile. We already did a projectile. So again, that's going to be super easy. I should expand my monster spawning cheat so that I can actually put in a name and it will spawn them for me. That would be nice. I don't like showing off my cheats. And it's not because I don't want people to cheat. It's because I don't like knowing cheats for games that I like. Like, it tempts me, you know? When you know that you can just open up the console and type in, win the game, it kind of defeats from the fun for me personally, because I've got kind of an addictive personality. I will abuse things if I'm not careful. Maybe that's just me. But, so sorry I'm doing this on a different screen. I already have level, amount, rank, and input going on. Can I add a name to this? Let's see. Should definitely be able to. Rank 1. Let's do string mob name. By default is nothing. Split length is over 4. Split length is over 5. Split length is over 6. Yeah, there's the index count, but that's a pain to remember. I guess that works. By default, we're going off index 5, which is on our mob manager somewhere here. I believe it's the net. It's the net manager monsters. Number 5 is the earth elemental we've been spawning. I guess that works. We'll just leave it as is. So next up, we're going to want to spawn monsters. So I'm going to want to do level, or spawn imps, level, amount, rank, destroy, index. That's pretty long-winded, but whatever. And imps are going to be pretty far down at the bottom, I think. 51. Okay, we can do that. We've already got a fireball that mages use. I don't think there's any harm in reusing that. Let's go and take a peek, see where that is. Not prefabs. Resources, skill templates. Apprentice, firebolt. Fire burst. Bring that out here. And we're just going to change it up a little bit. We're going to want to make a new firebolt script here. I'm going to want to unpack this prefab. And I'm going to call him firebolt. And we don't want... yeah, I guess we can leave this stuff on here. We need to change projectile, though. Projectile is now going to be entity projectile. And we're going to reference the rigid body directly. And we need to change the layer to mob spells. These are just particle systems on there. Like this. And like this. We're not going to use gravity for this one. He's going to fly straight because he's magic. It's not an explosion, but it's a firebolt. Still going to do... Change that to fire damage, even though that doesn't really do anything different just yet. What are you kitties doing? Fire, cooldown 3, sure. Should be good. And then imps, where's our imps? Imps are going to be only magic DPS. So we don't have that set up yet. 100% chance to do that. We're going to give them the Firebolt ability, which is a magic DPS ability. And we just got to plug it in like so, and they're good to go so long as we update this to also include magic DPS. And again, I don't really like this piling up like this, but it works, and for now that is acceptable. So let's see, there should be 100% magic DPS imps now, and they're all gonna try and lob firebolts. That's the beauty of getting the code working once. Now we can just toss stuff together real quick. What were they on the net manager? 54 was it? Nope, 51. Okay, so I want to spawn to, I don't remember. 45 to 1 false 51. Is that correct? Rank is by default 1. Okay. So pardon me while I do my little cheat codes here. He bugged out. What happened here? 240. 2140. It's trying to grab the animator and turn it on. Why did that not work? You don't have an animator, sir? Your animator is a child object, perhaps? Yes, it is. Not a big deal. Let me just fix that real quick. Get component in children, like so. I should probably get a drink. Let me go pour some hot water over something while this loads up. I'll be right back. Okay, one more time. The fireballs are not hitting, or yeah, they're not hitting. What's up with that? They're launching them though. That is fun. Why aren't they hitting me? They might have triggers on them. Fire bolt. Sphere collider is disabled. And why would you do that, sir? I think I can go ahead and... Oh, it's enabled here. That's strange. Who is disabling your collider? And why? It's got to be one of these guys, right? These aren't scripts that I've written myself, though I've certainly edited them over the course of using them. They came with one of the effects packs that I bought. I don't see anything oh, there it is. Enabled equals false. If destroy on hit, on trigger enter. Okay. FX hit spawner. Destroy after. Yeah, we do want it to destroy on hit. Lifetime after hit should be 0. Lifetime is 5. But is one of these triggering faster than the other? Is that what's going on here? On collision enter is what I'm using here. On collision enter is also what I'm using here. Well, that's fine. Let's hit spawner fire explosion. That is nice that it spawns the explosion. It's not 100% necessary. I'm just a little confused why both of these are not capable of calling. This guy's higher up in the hierarchy. Entity projectile. This too, this is only if we're using gravity, which is not actually... I guess if rb.use gravity is active, then we will do that. I'm not going to do that with fireballs. If not set up or expanded, should be triggering. Particle projectile collision. Let's go ahead and debug this. Why is that not firing here? But it is firing here. And this is fair game. I do actually want to turn the life after collision down to 0. We don't want it going through. Oh, yeah. Let's see, hit spawner. Entity, just so we can differentiate those logs. And yeah, we wanted to turn down the life after spawn. To 0. the problem with making things too generic. You end up with lots of different use cases. Well, now it looks like he's just hitting himself. What did I mess up there? Lifetime after hit is 0. Mob spells. What's the collision matrix going on there, and where do I edit those? I forget. That's something I do not regularly look at. Is that under project settings? Physics? There it is. Currently interacting with just about everything, huh? Mob spells don't run into one another, but they can still run into mobs. They should not be able to run into mobs. Where's the mob's lair? Mobs, there it is. Mob spells. How come these two don't interact? Mobs. Mob spells. Yeah, they're not supposed to be interacting. What's he running into? And why is nothing triggering here? I'm not getting any debugs. It looks like it's running into something. Explosions and flashes are happening. Two. See if I can get him to spawn one of these. Probably not likely. Oh! Yeah, it blew up immediately. No, it's still there. It's on the mob spells layer. The sphere collider has been disabled, so it's probably marked for destruction right now. If I go one more frame, it's going to die, I think. This guy does not have collision logic. This guy does. This didn't trigger. It's not a trigger. It's a collider. Start, spawn, spawn. Fine, good. Well, this is fired, so I assume he knows he's collided. But if that were the case, why did this not fire? And why did he run into himself? The imps themselves are on the mob layer, which should be immune to physics interactions. Why does he have two audio sources? That's weird. Should be immune to interaction with mob spells layer. So what did he run into? And why is it not triggering? And there he got marked for destruction and was properly destroyed. This is weird. Thought this was gonna just be, oh, there's fireball, there it goes, and we're done. Firebolt, that's you, right? You're going proper. Let's collapse you down, we don't care about you. Sphere collider is... Well, let's just turn you off for a second. Now they're both lobbing stuff at me. I think that it updates that in real time. So So that triggers even if this is turned off. That's kind of interesting. How come though? On collision enter. Does on collision enter ignore physics matrix? I guess I've never really looked into that. Unity does or do, yeah, does on collision enter ignore physics matrices. Doing physics enters the first angle collision still collides, blah blah blah, not what I'm talking about. Has already collided, use the collision matrix. If you are ignoring collisions after the object has already collided, use the collision matrix so they never collide object with the desired take. That's the point, but not really the answer. Do ignore collision with ignore collisions without using physics layer, ignore collisions, ignore collision layer, physics, or to avoid. I mean, that's kind of the only explanation for what's going on. It's not really how that's supposed to work. But apparently that is what is happening. Why is it not triggering though? That's what's the weird thing. If it collides and destroy on hit is firing, I mean, I guess on trigger enter would fire, wouldn't it? I didn't think of that. The player has a big giant trigger on them. And are there any instances where I would want this to fire on trigger enter? No, there are not. Triggers are not collision friendly in my universe. I don't want that ever. That's what's going on, isn't it? Didn't think of that. The player has the mob finder on him. It's this giant sphere trigger that collects AIs as they come inside of it and turns them on, basically. So anything that's too far away from the player is disabled. And that's all back and normal. We should be working fine now. Sometimes you run into a little hitch like that. Happy little mistake. My extra coffee is still way too hot to drink. Having that hot water heater is super nice though. It's, well, I guess, you know, in Japan they have spot heaters. I don't really like hot water out of the faucet though. It just doesn't taste good to me. I don't know why, but it's just an electric kettle basically. But it holds the water hot forever. It's not the instant quick. You know, like a normal electric kettle only fires when you push the button. This just keeps water. They're both shooting me now, and that all looks good and fine. And if I'm moving, yeah, I can get away from it if I want to move around. Which is fun. That adds a lot to the gameplay, in my opinion. If I were to be shooting them, I could be going like this. How come I got 2 light rewards for killing 1 guy? That's been an ongoing problem I would like to look into. Did I miss that guy? Did my projectile just hit his projectile? That looked like that's what happened there, wasn't it? I didn't get a debug for that, did I? No, that's a different script. Interesting though. Hit spawner, entity projectile, collision, Sasaru. I think that one of my arrows was destroyed by hitting the fireball. Is that a problem? I think that is. They're working good though. We're going to leave those as our... I'm going to go back to that collision matrix. And I'm going to turn off player spells from interacting with mob spells. Yeah. That's not something that should really be a thing, I don't think. Let's double check resources. Weapons, arrow is... What's up, Goofy King? How you doing? Long time no see. We're on the player spells level for arrows, so yeah, that should improve that. Okay, imp fireballs, we got wolf rake as a basic damage over time. Let's go ahead and set up a template for that. Skill name, rake, cooldown. We don't want them to be doing this constantly, so this is definitely going to be something new. Let's say the cooldown is 15. Damage type is slashing. Damage itself is, let's say half damage. I'm doing good. It's Friday. Half hour to lunch. Programming some monster abilities. Already got some ranged attacks in, which really definitely changes the dynamic of the game quite a bit. I'm very pleased with it. Yeah, going well, doing good. Might be, the plan is to get funded in April. We've currently got an investor situation lined up, which would be really, really cool to have a whole team of people making all of this not look like crap. We do not want a projectile. We don't actually have damage over time set up, do we? Target debuff stats. We're going to have to set that up separately. Let's turn these debugs off. I'll leave that there, but turn it off. Entity ability template. Probably under damage. Let's see, we want to do damage over time and damage over time duration. We don't actually have anything like that for the player yet, do we? Damage over time. So what is this going to be? This is going to be a debuff. I think it's going to be an effect. But let's see. Player stats. Current effects. Current buffs. Okay, here we go. Health per tick. Oh yeah, that's like heals over time, but in reverse. Okay. So these are every 3 seconds per tick, right? So we actually want to have tick count, not necessarily, let's see, DOT tick count. Do it like that. So then for our wolf rake, we're going to set up, he's got an initial bit of damage that's 25. And then he's going to do what? A normal attack is 50. So it's basically going to be like 2 attacks if we put it at 75. But then we're going to do that spread out across 9 seconds. So it'll be an additional 25 times 3 if we do that. I think that is not so bad. I think actually we can put that to 0 though. We'll do this at a 100 and it should trigger one of those immediately. Well, no, the first tick will, yeah, no, I think that was correct. 25, 75. So he'll do 25 damage when he hits you right away, and then 75 damage over time. We're actually going to need a sprite for that too now, aren't we? If we want to, we probably don't want to put it here though. It's going to show up in the player interface though, right over here, showing that you've got a debuff on you. Let's just get the logic up and working first though. Damage over time, blah blah blah. If projectile does not equal null, that's not what we're doing. We are going to do target effects will be a thing, but not just yet. Let's see. Damage and damage over time are kind of 2 different things. I guess we don't really want an else. Let's do if damage is greater than 0. Basically, we can just go ahead and do I suppose this should be player client, shouldn't it? Target is going to be that. So here we're going to do target dot transform dot position. And here we're going to do target dot attack player combat attack. We're going to melee attack the player using the holder, which is called attack holder. Simple as that. We also want to have the, oh, I guess we do want to pass this in for, yeah, I didn't really think that through, did I? Okay, monster AI is the entity dot transform dot position. Not a big deal. Like so. Which means that the AI is now going to be upset that we're not explicitly passing this, and target is actually our client. Like so, that's fine. If damage is greater than 0, we want to attack with that, and we want to pass in the entity AI as well. If we should probably just put basic attack in here, shouldn't we, for the AI here, so that we're not actually calling like some specific attack ability. We'll just have a basic attack. That's a route to go, maybe. If damage over time is greater than 0, what we want to do is we want to build up an effect. Effect equals new effect, and I don't have a constructor for that, so we're going to want to do effect dot duration. This is actually number of ticks, correct? No? Let's look again at player combat. This is a system I really should have just made based on ticks from the get-go. Not combat, player stats. Current effects, we're going to do duration minus equals 3. Okay, so we do actually want to do effect dot duration equals damage DOT tick count times 3, basically. So we want to make sure that, I don't like that, but it's fine. Health per tick equals damage over time, and we actually want to do minus damage over time, and this is, I guess we don't need parentheses, divided by the DOT tick count. So we're going to do 75 divided by the 3, so we do 25 per tick count. That's actually all that we need to do there. Now we just need to make sure that wolves use that. Let's see though. Wolves are only melee DPS, and if there is a skill to be used in the current archetype. Okay, we're not yet checking on cooldowns, so we don't want this to trigger every time. So we need to set up a cooldown system for monsters. Which is basically going to be, it doesn't need to be public. I don't think these need to be public either, but whatever. It's going to be beneath here. We're going to make it a dictionary of strings and floats called ability cooldowns. And the way we're going to manage that is if we trigger a skill. Currently we're only doing one possible skill. We can expand on that later. Right now what I just want to do is get that cooldown. We're already setting the attack cooldown here, which is fine. So what I want to do is add ability cooldowns dot add using the ability template that we are now casting, name, and I want to use its cooldown like so. And we also want to make sure that we don't trigger this if the cooldown is already in use. So kind of what we want to do here first is entity template ability, what is it? Entity ability template, EA, we're already, wait, what? Yeah, EAT equals this, so I don't have to keep typing that out and looking it up. Let's get a direct reference to it. E8 EAT like this. Simplify that. Okay. Now EAT.engage this client. Right. So if we've got it, and if EAT dot if ability cooldowns dot contains key EAT dot name, then we need to just continue on to the next entity ability holder. Yeah. So currently this only works, currently only looking at index 0 of abilities for cooldowns and usage, which in the future will be a problem, but you know, we don't have anything that has 2 abilities yet, so it doesn't matter, and we don't need to prematurely expand on this without that. So if the ability is not yet on cooldown, we're going to exit out of this loop, which means we're not going to trigger a skill, and we're not going to trigger skill used, and we're just going to go with melee attack player. Now, in the event of the rock throwing and the fireball tossing, we don't actually want them to be triggering melee attacks is what will happen. I don't think that that's possible for it to overlap. Attack speed is going to be 3, and we're going to be managing these cooldowns just the same as the attack timer, so I think we will be fine, but again, we're going to want to upgrade that eventually. And this is not correct. We don't want to do that anymore. We do need to do this though. For each, this needs to be a key value pair string float pair in ability cooldowns. We want to go through these and pair dot value minus equals yeah, that's kind of the problem with using dictionaries, isn't it? A string and a float. I don't have any holders that are a string and a float, do I? We can certainly make one, it's not a big deal. Should we do that? Don't I have some kind of a cooldown something somewhere? No. Buff, effect, stat, alteration. I don't think I do. The problem with dictionaries is that you can't remove something through it using a for each loop, and you can't use a for loop on it because they're not sorted by index. So let's go ahead and I want to say that I've made that somewhere before, but I don't think I do have anything like that. Players, skills. I don't believe so. And again, I don't really want to make that right here, but for the moment, let's just go ahead and do that. This one does not need to be serializable. It's going to be called a cooldown holder. And I don't have anything like that. I guess not. I feel like I do somewhere. I don't know why. I don't know. Anyway, so we're going to just make this a string. Skill name equals unnamed by default, and our float is our cooldown, which is 0 by default. And we're not going to do a dictionary anymore. We're going to do a list of cooldown holders. Skill cooldown. What is this? What is this? Exactly what I was talking about. It's under player skills. Okay, well, we've already got it, so let's use that player. Oh, it's called a skill cooldown. I knew I built that somewhere. Doesn't need to be serializable, but doesn't matter if it is. Skill cooldown, ability cooldowns, new list of those. Very nice. Now when we do this, we can do a for each instead. Let's first plug them in so that they're working as we expect. If ability, yeah, we can't use it. That's kind of the benefit of dictionaries, is that you can just look for the key. Instead, we're going to have to go through for each skill cooldown, sc in ability cooldowns. If sc.name, or what is it, skill, is equal to eat.name. Then we have run into something that is not yet cooled down, and continue is actually going to use this, so we're going to want to do bool skill on cooldown equals false, skill on cooldown equals true, and then we can do if skill on cooldown, and we'll do continue here, which will break out of this for each loop. If we do use it, we want to do ability cooldowns dot add, and here we can do new skill cooldown with the name and the cooldown constructed right into it. So that works fine there. And then during our update, we want to loop through those for each skill cooldown, sc in ability cooldowns, sc dot, and actually we do want to do a for loop here. Let's do int I equals ability cooldowns dot count -1. So if we've got 1 in there, we're going to start at index 0. We want to do our logic as long as I is greater than or equal to 0, and then we're going to actually go backwards. So we're going to start at the end and loop backwards through it. The reason for that is if we're going to do ability cooldowns I dot cooldown minus equals time dot delta time, but if ability cooldowns I dot cooldown is less than or equal to 0, we actually want to ability cooldowns remove at I. So we're just going to take it straight out of this list if it has properly cooled down, which will allow the skill to then be used again, which should work fine for our fireballs. I'll spawn an imp just to make sure. In the meantime, we're working on wolf rake. All we need to do is put that on our wolves. I'm going to make them melee DPS, but that's not going to affect this in any way, right? Because it's a melee skill. Should be fine. Let's try it out. Yada, yada, yada. That all looks good, right? Cooldown's 15, so he's only going to be able to cast it every 15 seconds. It's going to last for 9 seconds. We can try that out too. That'll be interesting. So anyway, wolf, where are you at? Those are animals, not monsters. Wolfy wolf. You, sir, are going to be a melee DPS 100%, and we're going to give you an ability called Rake. So he now should be able to use that. Let's see what index wolves are. They're number 3. Interesting. So I want to spawn an imp to make sure that I didn't break firebolt with the cooldown math. And then I want to spawn a wolf and see if he can rake me for damage over time. And kind of as the finishing touch to damage over time, we're going to want to do an icon for that debuff. I actually played some World of Warcraft recently, and they are, they're very good at their UI and their controls and all of that. And it had me thinking about kind of ways to improve on understanding what's going on your buffs and debuffs and stuff over here, but let's see. I want to Imp. Yeah, he's melee attacking me there, see. I actually reposted him once, I think. So we do need to fix that cooldown logic a bit. Like I said, I guess really I could, yeah, I'm reposting him, aren't I? This is my repost fighter. Thinks that they're getting a, oh, there's another little spam message. Oh boy. I don't understand the point of these. Is that is that even a website? I don't know. And I don't see a way to prune my chat box here other than are we going to add a filter? No, that's not that kind of filter, huh? Yeah, it'd be nice if I could remove a specific post. What's up, Art? Stu. Lucian. How did I... I don't know what I'm doing here. I'm trying to mess with my chat box here. Whatever, we'll just leave it. I don't know what... I keep getting a bot coming here and post. I don't even think that those are links though or anything. Like, what is vum.ngo? Probably just a bot trying to get comment. You know, like sometimes you have to make a comment to get recognized as, you know, having enough points or whatever to post somewhere, whatever. Anyway, I think I can actually fix the imp by turning the firebolt cooldown to 0. Because he's going to be doing his, that's like his main attack, right? Let's do that with Stone Toss too. I've actually been working out lately, Stu. Good on me, huh? Oh, I still reposted him somehow. What? What's going on here? I guess that counts as me getting hit, doesn't it? Let me pull my bow out. Anyway, I've got imps throwing fireballs. Earth elementals are throwing rocks. That's still registering as a melee attack, though, isn't it, somehow? What's going on here? Attack holder. It's supposed to be, okay, yeah, hold on. Entity projectile, that's what we want to edit. Entity projectile. This should be not, yeah, it's doing ranged attack player, right? So there should be no way for that to trigger. Did I missed removing player hit. Where is that? Client update health. No? Why am I reposting? I removed repost logic from here. What am I missing here? I got my sword out. He threw a fireball at me. Looks like he hit me twice there. See, and there I reposted him somehow. Looks like he hit me twice though again. So we messed up this cooldown logic somewhere here, didn't we? Skill used. Yeah, there's definitely lots of different stuff. I'm just trying to get it, first level working first. And it was working fine. I just upgraded it a bit to do cooldowns because we put a rake ability on wolves. It's a damage over time that they only want to be able to cast every 15 seconds. Somehow this is triggering though, right? Skill used, but he was still throwing the skill used true, if not skill used, blah blah blah. If not skill used, but skill was definitely used. If skill on cooldown, continue, some of them will. Well, and kind of the thing is, like, I don't want imps to actually be doing anything but throwing fireballs. So their skill cooldown should be 0. It's going to add the skill, but its cooldown is going to be 0, and then in update, the ability cooldown is going to be immediately removed. I actually should be able to look at that in edit mode. Oh, I'm beating him up. So you, sir, where are you? Which one are you? This guy. And I want to go into debug mode. And can I see his cooldowns? Ability cooldowns. He's got nothing going on right now. Yeah, it should go away like immediately. He's hit me twice though, right? There's not two guys firing at me. It's just this guy. Why is he hitting me twice for? Imp hit you for minus 1.2. What? I'm actually gaining health on some of these. That's not good. What's this second ability they're hitting me with? This isn't like well, I mean, the fact that I'm reposting from them, it's probably like my proc damage that's going off or something. How come I'm suddenly able to repost these guys? It's treating that like a melee attack for some reason. I mean, reposting fireballs back at them is pretty cool, but not what I'm going for. Oh, it's noon. What are you going to do? This bothers me, though. What's going on here? We better get some debugs going in here. Debug log. This is the only way that this should be able to fire, right? Melee attack. And I guess actually what we can do is put that in player combat. That'll be easier to track. Ranged attack player. Let's do ranged attack, and then melee attack. Up here we'll do melee attack. Non-repostable. What does that mean? Non-repeatable? Oh, right. Well, yeah, it's not supposed to be. That's why I made a separate ranged attack player thing. There's no riposte logic in here. So for some reason, they're like bypassing this stuff here and making it. I think that's the only way to explain that, is that somehow they're melee attacking the player while throwing fireballs somehow. So something's going wrong. Yeah, see, melee attacks are firing somehow. So how is that happening? Entity ability temp. Oh, yeah, it's because of this, isn't it? We put damage over that. So, okay, that makes sense. Firebolt projectile itself doesn't actually have any damage. We put it right here. I guess we want to separate out projectile damage. Is that what we want to do? Is that necessary? Projectile. I guess we could just do that. Projectile damage. And then we'll leave this as melee damage. That's kind of annoying, though. To have all. Do I have to do projectile damage type then, and projectile damage over time, and all of that? I guess really what I did different here was this was supposed to be else if. So if we fire a projectile, then we don't want to do this, right? If damage is greater than that, damage over time. I probably actually want this to all be within here, don't I? So we're going to have projectile logic. We could also have damage over time logic for here. Projectile thing, so that we use the same damage and damage over time settings, but if we're a projectile, we're going to load that all up into the projectile. If we're not a projectile, we're going to continue on with melee attacking stuff. Okay, so anyway, that should fix that. I didn't change anything there. We'll reload that and try the imps one more just to make sure that that worked. And then we want to spawn a wolf and make sure that that rake ability worked. And then I'm going to go to lunch. Harder to parry, easier to block. That's true. You're not wrong. We could certainly change the logic under player combat. But then again, you're not wrong. It's just, do I want to spend the time doing that for the math under the hood, and then like you have to explain that to players too, that, oh, by the way, ranged attacks are easier to block. And then do I have to make that in the stats UI? I have to explain that to people. Is it worth all of that? I'm not too sure. Okay, so he's throwing fireballs at me. They're doing damage once. And I did dodge one of them. Let's see that happen again. There we go. Dodge, didn't take damage. Cool. That one looks like it got parried. That's a little weird because it's magic damage. We'll get there though, you know. Okay, let's try a wolf. So I don't think he's doing it. He's sure biting the crap out of me. Hold on. Easy, buddy. He's melee DPS. He's got a wolf rake ability, but he's not doing it. Why is he not doing it? For each entity ability holder, we're going to go through. He is melee DPS, right? I don't actually have that visible, do I? Let's take a peek. You, sir, current, where are you? Current archetype is melee DPS, okay. So he knows he's melee DPS. There is a holder here with a melee DPS skill called Wolf Rake. And he should be able to find it. He should be able to find that his stuff is not on cooldown, because he didn't. Oh, you know what? I didn't finish writing the logic is the only problem, isn't it? Yeah, this just, it's not even applying it. That's not going to work. Yeah, well, and that's the thing. I'm in medium armor, and I made him he's now a melee DPS, so he should be doing pretty good damage to me. He's attacking pretty fast. Anyway, and I think I'm in like common armor, you know, and I don't have any enchants or anything on anyway. So effect dot health per tick. I think that's all we need. Level equals. Do I know what level I'm doing here? Entity dot get level. Effect dot. I don't think I need anything else. Skill. Sure. Skill equals skill name. Effect dot. What's the problem here? Okay, that's not. We don't need that. Source equals entity uint .net ID. Effect dot. Yeah, I think we're good. Duration we got going right. And then we need to do target dot player combat dot player stats dot apply effect. So that's going to apply the bleed. Right? It's melee attacking me because the damage is over that. And what about the attack holder that we're passing him? We should actually change the... Before any of this goes off, we should change the attack holder dot attack skill name to equal the skill name that we've got going off here. That'll help print the name out to what's causing the damage to us in the combat log. And if the wolf ability works, we can move on to doing bears and vampires and all kinds of stuff. Vampire life leech. That would be something I'd have to program. Earth Golem, probably do like a big stomp. Goblin boss, he might do like a grapple. That'd be cool. He's got that big chain. Mummies could do a grapple. Reduce your movement speed. Stuff like that. That'd be fun. Spawn a wolf. Oh, don't repost. I don't see him applying any effects on me still. That's a bummer. What's going on, Mr. Doggy? Wolf. Damage over time. Target player stats. Add effect. Let's just add a debug log here. Add effect. So we know that's firing. I also want to go into player combat and turn off this, because that's annoying. Put one of those in ranged too, didn't we? Turn that off. That's fine. Let's just put a debug log here too. Monster ability engage. And let's also do one down here. Monster ability DOT. And we'll let that compile and try it once more. Let me take a look at this again. We set that up though, right? It's got damage over time. It doesn't have a projectile. Projectile should be null. No projectile. And damage over time. Slashing. Cooldown. Rake. Should be triggering. Effect. Player stats, add effect. Monster AI. Should find it. Should find that it is not on cooldown, which lets us engage it and add it to cooldown. Wolf, and he's not doing it. What's going on? He's not even engaging it, so he's not finding it for some reason. He's certainly attacking though, so we're getting at least to this logic here. For each entity ability holder in ability holder, if the archetype is equal to the archetype, which we confirmed already that that was true, right? He's a melee DPS. He's got an ability holder template for melee DPS. How come he's not using it? Yeah, he should prioritize this. It's only if this fails that he then reaches to melee attack. So, yeah, chance I put at... this is the chance he has to become a melee DPS. And I looked at that. He is currently a melee DPS. So he should be triggering that. When in doubt, add more debugs. Let's do checking EAH dot archetype dot to string. If it's the same, likewise we're going to checking EAT dot name, and for each skill cooldown and ability cooldowns, if it's the same, let's do debug.log cooldown found, exiting. Otherwise, he should engage, which should trigger this, which it's not. So which one of those steps isn't firing? My wife just came home. She is ready for lunch, no doubt. Would like to get this wolf to bite me. Or what is he doing? He's scratching me. And then I'll go make a sandwich or something. One more try. I don't think she brought anything. Probably just make a spicy ham sandwich or something. Looking at me. Switch to bow. Hello, sir. He bit me, and nothing fired. What? Oh, he's an animal. No wonder. Yep, that's a problem. Animal AI actually overrides quite a bit of this. Animal AI 2. That's the reason why we need to compartmentalize this stuff better. Monster AI has its attack logic, and animal AI has its own attack logic. That is no good. No bueno. And honestly, why does this even override it? Like, what's an animal gonna do that a monster's not gonna do? This is like all the same, isn't it? I don't think there's even any reason for this to be overridden at all. I'm just gonna go like this. No overriding. I think that will fix it. I don't know why it's overridden in the first place, like I say. He's just gonna do a ray cast. He's gonna make an attack holder, and he's going to attack the player. That's no different than this. I guess they're not. Yeah, that is it. So this should fix that. Let's try it once more, and then I'll go to sandwich. I wish she brought me a chicken sandwich. I don't know where she went. I think she said she was going to go to a cafe she was only gone for like an hour. I don't know. But yeah, I wouldn't have minded a chicken sandwich. Skill rake not found. What now? It looks like I've broken his animations because I did need to override that a bit. That's fine. Checking EAT, cooldown found, exiting. So it did try to fire. Monster ability engage, monster ability dot, add effect. Did I have an effect running though? I don't. Skill template manager. Okay, so the buff UI is only familiar with player buffs. So it didn't know what to do in terms of adding an icon up here. Did that cause it to just not work at all? That's part of the add effect, but active buff equals new buff. Yeah, it didn't ever actually make it to active buffs. Okay, to the add function. So I'll have to change this a bit. We'll probably want to do, because this is basically just adding buffs. We want to add like monster buffs and not try to be looking for a skill template like this. But that's okay. I'll sort that out, and we will turn this back on and improve it, because we do need, this stuff is different for animals, but all the rest of it is not. And with monsters, they're doing this. So, you know, we can just separate out this part of it and reuse all of this rather than having to call that on both of them. For example, I can do that real quick. We're just going to delete all of this. And we're going to say base.attack. It's going to call all of that logic. Actually, we don't even need to do override. What we want to do, animate attack. That's what we want. Is somebody using that? Nobody's using that. That's why he exists, isn't it? But he should exist on this level. Like so. Protected virtual void, and by default you're going to look like this, and we're going to call animate attack. Oh, whoops, that didn't work. Animate attack here, and then what we can do on the animal AI is actually not call this at all, but we're going to override this to incorporate this logic, and he now needs to be an override. So monsters are the only ones that will run attack AI, because animal AI 2 inherits from the monster AI script. Attack will be called as normal. but when monster AI calls animate attack and does its own thing here, animal AI2 will actually be calling this instead, which is necessary for animal animators, which are a bit different. And then we need to fix the buff UI so that we're doing something like add we could say like exterior effect, or what, add, let's say add entity effect. We want to make sure it's not already there. We're not going to be doing the template logic. And I'll improve on that later. But the one that actually calls this is starts in player stats. Add effect right here. This did get called. Current effects. No, actually this is more important that this went through here. But yeah, it actually broke right here. And I don't think it made it down to this point. So we're probably going to want to do that as well here. Something like this. Add entity effect. And I'll clean this up. Shortly, but yeah. All right, I'm gonna go to lunch. I'm hungry. It's 12:30. Good stream though. We got monster projectiles working. Once we get this guy working, then we can have monster debuffs working too. So we can have guys that slow you down, guys that stun you, guys that, you know, lower your armor, whatever. And that adds a lot of variety to the combat. You know, makes combat a lot more fun than everybody's just punching each other. And then we can set up entity traits, which will allow, you know, for example, normally a wolf just scratches you, but now you've run into a zombie wolf, and now you've got a 10-minute disease debuff on you, or, you know, whatever, stuff like that, to add an extra dimension of non-sameness to the game world. I think that will help out quite a bit with variety in the world. So anyway, thanks for stopping by, Stu, Goofy King, and Vizaresh. I'll see you guys again. I will be back on Tuesday. It's Friday here, but